Hello my dear friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars video. I'm really excited to share this one with you. Ever since I started my channel back in 2020, I've been keeping you guys updated on all things concerning one of my favorite all-time Jedi, Yaddle. And at this point, I think I've made about 12 videos on the character. That's a lot for someone who only appeared briefly in The Phantom Menace and didn't have any speaking lines. And before Tales of the Jedi gave her a canon death, most of our information about her was from the expanded universe, which is now of course Star Wars Legends. But today, my friends, we have an update. The brand new issue number 5 of the Jedi Knights comics just came out, and this one is all about Yaddle and Dooku. So as I said, in 2022 we got the canon reason why Yaddle doesn't appear in Attack of the Clones. She tragically died at the hands of Count Dooku, shortly after the Battle of Naboo. She'd been questioning the decisions of the Jedi Council for quite some time. She felt so disillusioned with Yoda and the Order as a whole, to the point where Qui-Gon's death was the final straw. But Yaddle had been sensing the growing darkness for years. I think to a great extent, she sympathized with Dooku's outlook. She understood his frustration, but deeply disagreed with his methods, and obviously now with Maul dead, becoming a Sith, and working with Palpatine, which he had been doing for some time before this, by the way. But now, my friends, in 2025, the new issue of the Jedi Knights comics have revealed an awful truth. That years prior to the Phantom Menace, and years prior to Yaddle's death, she had the chance to stop Dooku. He almost admitted to her face that he had fully turned to the dark side. But she ignored all the signs. I've not been the biggest fan of this run. I often get the impression that Lucasfilm under Disney doesn't understand the prequel time period, the nuances of various characters. But this issue, I enjoyed, and I want to take you through it. You're going to see the way it explores Dooku and Yaddle's friendship, the way how despite sensing darkness, she once saved his life. It makes Tales of the Jedi more tragic. You're about to see what I'm talking about. If you've not done so, my dear friends, please be sure to hit the big subscribe button down below, ring the bell for notifications, but no more jibber jabber, here we go. The comic takes place just a few years before the Phantom Menace, but because it concerns Yaddle and Dooku, the opening page fast forwards us to the future. We get a comic adaptation of her death, and it's as tragic as you remember. Count Dooku, fallen Jedi, says this: "I want only to bring peace and order to the galaxy. Already so many have suffered for what you call order. Then let me give you peace, Master Yaddle." And then he strikes her down. So then the comic begins. Go back a few years prior to the Battle of Naboo. This comic has a very episode 1 feel to it. 2 Jedi sent to deal with trade negotiations, and this takes place on the planet of Liskan. Just a little Easter egg, we first saw this planet in the Han Solo and Chewbacca comics. The 2 ambassadors sent by the Republic are Yaddle and Sira Longa, a Jedi Knight. Now, something great this comic does is it upholds Yaddle's personality from pretty much every source we know about. She's a meditative and quiet Jedi. She never speaks too loudly and never out of turn. She chooses her words and she's very collected, always trusting in the Force. And she tells Sira, "Thousands of Jedi in the galaxy, and I seem to have found the one who enjoys mediation." So Yaddle doesn't really want to be on this mission, but Sira Longa does. And because Yaddle is a very respected Jedi Master who's been around for centuries, Longa is just happy to be in her presence. So then they enter the negotiation room, and in front of them is a familiar face and a not so familiar face. Viceroy Newt Gunray from the Trade Federation, and you remember him from the Prequel Trilogy, and the other guy is a Rodian called Quillan Zarro of the Galanta Corporation. They're both shady, but I would say Zarro is even more so. And so what's going on is that the Galanta Corporation violated its contract with the Trade Federation, but it's hard to know who's telling the truth, because it turns out the Trade Federation stole one of their ships. They did this because they think it's full of stolen goods. The Federation agreed to trade 1,000 Dionysian paracels in exchange for 10,000 shares of Galanta stock. The Trade Federation delivered, but the Galanta Corps didn't, and for that reason, the Trade Federation confiscated their ships. There are accusations on both sides, so Yaddle comes up with a solution. Go to the stolen freighter and see if they're telling the truth. Try and find the stolen goods. So as the Jedi go inside, they quickly discover that Quillan Zarro was not telling the truth. His operation is a front for illegal spice. And then all of a sudden, Count Dooku walks in. Sira Longa asks, "Why would a legitimate corporation want to trade an illegal spice?" And Dooku answers, "I should think the answer to that question is obvious, my young Jedi friend. Hello, Master Yaddle. You look well." Sira Longa meets Count Dooku, formerly of the Jedi Order. I've never met a former Jedi before, she says, much less one who snuck onto a private freighter. Yaddle is a bit suspicious, but Dooku says, oh please, my presence here isn't nearly so insidious. As it happens, I'm here as a favor to a friend of the Trade Federation. He asked me to safeguard their property. Except, this ship belongs to the Galanta Corporation, and Dooku says, yet it now rests in the custody of the Trade Federation. I have reason to believe Galanta will attempt to recover their confiscated ship. And as soon as he says this, Galanta's security shows up and tries to kill them. They're Wookiees, and they shoot at the two Jedi and Dooku. This comic is very much in line with the book Dooku Jedi Lost. At this point, Dooku is not yet a Sith, but he is working alongside Palpatine, Darth Sidious. And as you're going to see later in the comic, one of the reasons I don't think Yaddle is too fazed by his non-Jedi ways is because he's already left the Order, so he's expected to be unorthodox. I guess she just didn't expect he was going to turn to the dark side. More on this in just a moment. He ignites his lightsaber, and Siralonga is confused. If he is a former Jedi, then why does he still have a lightsaber? Dooku remains a friend to the Jedi Order, but even if he still wields a lightsaber, he nonetheless requires our help. All three survive the attack, but the Wookiees on behalf of the Galanta Corps take Dooku into custody, and they question him as to why he's working with the Trade Federation, something which similarly confuses Yaddle, because at this point, no one knows the truth about what Dooku's really up to, and his true allegiances. And this is where Yaddle has an epiphany. She meditates in the middle of the ship. The Force is my guide. It tells me to follow my instincts, to trust my feelings, and I do so. I don't trust Dooku though. There's a disturbance surrounding him like a shroud. A darkness. Something troubling that brings a chill to my soul. But I cannot deny the Force. We must save Dooku. And so here we have this awful revelation that years before he killed her, Yaddle already sensed Dooku was turning to the dark side. But she doesn't do anything about it. She goes on to rescue him. But this is where things get worse. Because she has to stop Dooku from killing an unarmed Wookiee, she puts her lightsaber up to prevent the blow. She's confused. She says, do not strike someone down in anger, Dooku. It's not the Jedi way. And Dooku replies ominously, what I know, Master Yaddle, is that there are forces in the galaxy that do not share the Jedi's reluctance to do what is necessary, and it will mean the end of the Jedi Order. But thank you for the rescue. Pity will never know truly if I owe you my life. And this leaves Yaddle shaken and suspicious, which adds even more backstory and context to the reason she chased him down in Tales of the Jedi, sadly to meet her fate. And Siralonga, the other Jedi she's with, is even more confused. He's wrong. Dooku is wrong, she says. You did save his life. And yet, it sounds like you're already regretting it. And Yaddle watches as Dooku walks away. It's a very powerful comic, my dear friends, and it just gave us so much more clarity into Yaddle's psyche leading up to the Phantom Menace. Share your thoughts in the comments down below, my dear friends, and I'll see you in the next one. May the Force be with you, always.